Hey guys, what's happening? Meticulous Maynard here. We're working on Teabeanie, trying to do some of these welding repairs on the body. Going to be working the night shift on this episode. Just trying to get more of this body work done in the evenings after work. So let's dive right into it. So in our last episode, I actually got to the point where I welded in this first of 3 patch panels. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to hit this with a flap disc, just try to knock down all the high spots and get this close to flush, just to make sure that I've hit all of the seam here, because when I sand this, it'll be pretty obvious whether or not there's like a couple little hairline gaps or something. And I'll be hitting this all with body sealer later, but I just want to make sure that it's welded through and through. So as you saw in the time lapse, I just gave this all a quick grind. And again, I'm not going for perfection here because this is all going to be covered by interior trim. I don't really care what this looks like. The primary issue here was just making sure that any of these craters in the weld here are any spots where it's coming through. And again, I'm not seeing anything. There's a couple pock marks here or there, I think from rust internally on the metal, but that'll be fine. So this is looking good. So we're going to move over to our next patch now. Alright, that went pretty well. I burned through again in a couple of spots, but it's really tricky when this the really thin body metal of the Subaru is so heavily rusted that there's practically nothing left. So I'm going to do the same thing I did with that side over there, and I'm going to just grind this real quick, make sure that there aren't any other pinholes in here, and then I'll move on to the last weld. Okay, so with that side set, last thing to do is this plug here. The thing to keep in mind about this plug is that it's actually sitting in this recess that was for the grommet for these fuel lines. So, one, I don't have to use my nifty little magnet trick in order to hold the plate in place. It's just going to sit wherever it needs to. And 2, because now I'm doubled up on my seams, I'm actually going to turn the heat up on the welder just one setting. That way I get better consistent penetration with the hopes of not burning through, but we'll see. I can always fill it back in again if I need to. Oh my god, so turning up the heat really helped on this one. So the only spot I was a little nervous that I hadn't penetrated was this blob that you now see here. So what I did was I actually turned the wire speed down just a touch, and I hit that. I really tried to nuke it with some heat to make sure that melted back into the parent metal here. So I'm pretty happy with how this looks here. There's nothing astoundingly standing out to me that says, hey, you want to come back and fix that real quick. So I'm not even going to bother grinding this because, again, this isn't getting seen. This is going to be under the rear seat. So from here, we're going to now just take some body filler, hit each of these 3 points just in case there's any little like porosity or anything in the welds. Want to fill that in, make sure that it's not getting exposed to the elements, and that should help protect all of these here. So let's hop over to that now. So where we last left off, I was talking about doing some seam sealing and such, but I decided before I got to that to hit the frame up with some navel jelly, rust dissolver stuff. This guy here. And I left it on for a little bit long. And then, of course, the directions say to wash off with water, which, as you can imagine, causes it to rust again. Yay! Luckily, this all isn't too bad. Yeah, here's a spot. You can see I left it on a little long, and it's kind of blackened the metal up. So it's kind of corroded a little heavily into there. But luckily, all this rust we see here is all just surface rust. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it all with steel wool and some acetone, which I need to do to prep the surface anyways for paint. So it looks like I've taken a massive step backwards. And in some ways with, you know, it etching the metal like this, I kind of have, unfortunately. But, yeah, I'm just going to put some elbow grease into it now and get this all cleaned up. Whew, it is slow going, but I'm getting it. Here, if we turn on the light, you guys can see. So this section before looked more like that section. So you can see, basically I'm just Scotch-Briting with soaked with acetone, and then following up with a clean rag, and just kind of wiping off the residue, and it's getting it back to bearish metal. So ignore these spots here. There were weird brackets that were hanging off the bottom of the car that I didn't get why they're there. Maybe some muffler hardware or something. So I just cut them off real quick. There's bare metal, but I gotta hit those with a wire brush. I'm not gonna bother hitting them with the navel jelly. Not a big deal, but it was mostly just to get any heavy stuff like it was up here. Now, obviously that looks like absolute ass right now, but again, it will look like this once I'm done cleaning it. So I'm going to get back to it. I'm not really filming any of the navel jelly or the cleaning up of this stuff, just because, I mean, who wants to sit there and watch someone paint the underside of their car pink, or then sit there with wire brush, or not even a wire brush, sit there with Scotch-Brite and clean this shit off of it. So we'll just jump ahead now to when I finally finish stripping this. And then, and only then, will we actually get to doing some seam sealing on stuff like this right here. Okay, that was a lot of work to go in and clean everything up. I even came in from the top side and just cleaned up some of the raw metal areas we have. So if we hop on the creeper, take a look below, you can see the fruits of my labor. So where we last left off, I'd done about that, and now I've gone and hit just about everything. All along the cross member here. The other side is pretty clean now. There's still some spots down on the low That's like where the bumper attaches. I need to sort that out in a bit, but I'm mostly focusing on the underside. So now the next task is going to be coming in with seam sealer and hitting any of these spots where the body panels themselves meet and they aren't properly filled. I think there might be some stuff over here, and obviously anywhere I welded, I'm gonna just paste over that to keep it protected. Like this tab, there's places where water can gather underneath, so just hit that to be safe. Got a whole bunch of bare stuff there, but it's really nice to see now that I've had the chance to clean everything up. Obviously there's a little bit of rust here and there, but most of this is bare metal and clean, and I'm going to be using the POR anyways, which kind of works as a rust neutralizer, so all this will get nice and cleaned up. Moving swiftly right along. I got the seam sealer in more than a few locations already. Just kind of going in and filling in all these gaps that I've exposed. So I'm just going to keep on going along here. We got some stuff up here. This was a weld patch that I completely covered. As is over there. And I got stuff around some of those frame members where stuff was just kind of exposed and it was going to cause me problems further along. So looking over everything, looks like we got a good spot right here. So I'm using is just this seam sealer. It's stuff you can pick up at your local auto parts store. It goes in a little caulking gun like this. And the idea is you just go along, and if I can hold it steady, you run it along your seam like so. And then I always grab one of these little like flat bladey guys and go in and kind of smooth it out and let it fill the gap like that to create a good seal over the metal and keep any water from getting in through that. So I'm just going along and hitting all these spots. Gotta hit up down here a little bit more. So we'll catch back up when I'm done filling all these gaps, and we'll get on to painting. Shiny. It's a little tricky because I'm trying not to touch anything. I already pulled my gloves off, but gone ahead and got the POR 15 all over the underside of the car, even going up into the little driveline tunnel up front. So this is just the first coat for the time being. Everything's super shiny because it's all still wet, and there are a few areas you can see where it's like a little thin and such, but that's what the second coat is for. And yeah, she's looking a whole lot better now that I've got a whole bunch of paint under here. So slap on the second coat, and then we'll get back into repairing things mechanically. We'll get the gas tank squared away. It's actually just hanging out on the floor over there. I may have to clean it up a little bit ahead of time, and we'll bolt it back up once all the paint's dry. That's taken care of, and then we'll start to figure out the fuel line situation. So that'll be the next episode, but I think that this is a good place to wrap up. Thanks everyone for watching. If you like this, hit the like button, subscribe, comment, all the usual stuff. Any kind of activity on the video does help a lot as far as promoting the material to other viewers and expanding the channel. I'll catch you guys next time.